It's Pippi with 100 metres to go. Still clear. A good margin. Pippi needs the line, but she's going to get it. Pippi with the opening.
People say she's crazy. She got diamonds on the soles of her shoes.
At the 150, it's Tagaloa. Hanseatic trying to wear it down. Tagaloa, followed by Hanseatic, personal late. Tagaloa's ready for Hanseatic. Tagaloa has won it.
She's physically forgotten, and then she slipped into my pocket with my car keys.
Enfar has a fight. General Bow coming out of finance. Tycoon ingratiating. And Artorius is flying at the 50. Artorius pounces, bombs them and wins.
And I could say,
but off she goes, 100 to go. Marabi, 2 lengths in front of Away Game, who's flashing at her, but Marabi's holding on and she's got the group one.
talk about diamonds on the soles of her shoes.
Alligator Blood looking for a 5th group 1 at the 150, led 3/4 of a length from I'm Thunderstruck, who can't get there. Then Mr. Brightside, but the gate has done it again. Little Rose takes the lead from Arkansas Kid, Don Corleone. Little Rose, it's Hayes again. And Ayasugi, the filly, is flying home. Let him double on Ayasugi. Mr. Brightside is eating up the ground now, and Mr. Brightside goes to Buffalo River. Pericles a length and a half off Mr. Brightside, but it's Mr. Brightside clear, and he's going to rack up another one.
To compensate for his ordinary shoes.
Mr. Brightside went for home, 200 metres to go, 2 lengths of Emerald. I wish I win. It's Mr. Brightside. He's opened up his eyes. He's just in front.
Wearing diamonds on the soles of their shoes.
150 metres to go. There we go. And she's got a improvement. Jimmy Starr coming hard. She's got a improvement. Jimmy over the top. There's Rock in the sky.
Talking about, I mean, everybody here know exactly what I was talking about. Talking about diamonds. Diamonds on the soles.
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
Yeah, hopefully there's blue diamonds on the soles of our shoes tomorrow. Bit of Paul Simon, bit of Matt Hill's fantastic work over recent years, not just the blue diamond, but Futurity and Oakley Plate highlights, courtesy of Racing.com. Vince Accardi from Daily Sexuals. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Ralphie. Matt Hill, he calls everything now, doesn't he?
He's a freak, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
We'll walk into a studio and call the Winter Olympics on the other side of the world while you're at it.
Love it.
Absolutely. Well, Caulfield tomorrow looks like we've got perfect weather. We've got the rail true, track good. Can't ask for anything more than that. And in fact, someone last night sent me a link, Vince, Lanes 101, because they sent me a link. Channel 7 sent out the famous Warham Oakley Plate race. So if the fields are big enough, like with the Blue Diamond and the Oakley Plate, horses can get out there deep.
Yeah. What a horse to send out. That's a good example to send out. You get in those lanes and it's dangerous.
Yeah, but for smaller fields, less so. It's hard to get out there.
Well, the other thing is the big revelation. Not only that, we talk about the lanes, but the fact that they've really overcome this situation between the 6 and the 4. That's massive help for all the horses.
Well, in that situation, that's not a bad starting point to kick off from race 7, the first of the 3 Group 1 races, the Futurity Stakes, where Treasure of the Moment was dynamic in the, shall we say, the spring equivalent, the Memsey Stakes, 1400 weight for age, absolute superstar performance. Didn't go on with it for various reasons, was still fantastic through her prep without winning again. But if she turns up tomorrow, she's going to absolutely justify her tight price. But it'll be a different race shape. I think we can guarantee that, because that was a brutal race shape last Memsey. The question is, how slow will they go tomorrow?
Yeah, well, especially if Damien's got the job that he is going to control that pace up front, which he may actually want to do, Ralphie, right, in this small field, because that could play right into his hand. So how slow's the question is, how slow's slow, right? And when you look at the horse's intel, realistically, it should go about 1 length below benchmark. That's the real reality, Ralphie. That's what it should do. Its average is about 2.5 lengths to 3 lengths below benchmark when it is at this distance range. So if we use that as the range, -1, -3, we're probably in a good space if that's what happens, Ralphie.
There's probably only 3 other horses who could possibly lead, and I'm just saying it from the other side of the coin because we always try to, and that is V8, who was quick in his old days, was poor last start, but can be on pace. Is there a chance at any stage that Craig Williams on Pericles or Jamie Mellon on Evaporate could take it up?
Yeah, well, V8, he hasn't had that many starts at the distance range. The last 3 times he's been at 1,400 metres. He has been above benchmark, even though not leading, right? So his average sits around benchmark -0.5. Pericles, on the other hand, it's really crazy because when you think about this horse, a lot of times you would think, oh, he's a potential leader. But when he's on the front, he's only going benchmark, Ralphie. His actual average, 1 SB is like 4.5 lengths below benchmark at this distance. And even when I look at the MLF, that's the margin from the leader, it's virtually 3 lengths off the leader. So the position for this horse, obviously, Craig Williams, got brilliant tactics. If he feels they're going to go way too slow, he'll make sure there's at least some relevance of pace that's going to suit the horse. This is why I just keep coming back that all things being equal, we should still only be somewhere between 1 length and 3 lengths below benchmark, unless, like you said, someone like Luke Carey says, no, I'm going to put a bit of power in the race, and the horse does have the capacity to go above benchmark. But that probably might also suit Damien Oliver. He might let that happen as well, maybe.
Damian Lane. Yeah.
Damian Lane, yep.
Yeah. So with Treasure of the Moment, if it's, as I said, it was a very fast tempo, the Memsey last spring first up when Pinstriped over-raced in the blinkers and he sat third line on Treasure of the Moment. Assuming he takes it up, is there a negative at all with when she just cruises in front?
Well, if you look at this horse's win profile, because it's won plenty of races.
Yeah.
Again, this is the crazy part. It's won at 4.5 lengths above benchmark round figures, 2 lengths above benchmark. All other runs are anywhere between 1 and 6 lengths below benchmark, with a few of them that are between 10 and 16 lengths below benchmark. So I reckon it's wide spectrum about what this horse can do, and I don't really feel that's a problem for the horse. What I find, and I'm sure like a lot of other form students, slash punters come across this journey in, when they play this sport, sometimes there's just horses you just find hard to back, even though you can't really find the knock. I find this horse hard to back myself, right? This is Treasure of the Moment, but I can't knock it. And then if you look at its profile is so solid for this distance here, but it's this quirkiness about the horse. Whereas a vulnerable, really, you look at it, there's not really any vulnerability. Yet when you see it racing under some scenarios, it is vulnerable. But could that be because of preparations, how the run into that race is set up? Maybe it's these things. I'm not sure, Ralphie. I just find this horse myself difficult to back because I feel like something's not going to go right for it, but it's a winner.
It certainly is. Pericles, I'll go in order of your most advantage on your early edition of Race Speed Profiles. Pericles, did Bjorn Baker do a mini Waller first up last prep? And by that I mean, we often say with Chris Waller, when he gets a recruit, he wants to see what's under the bonnet first up. And it was fantastic at Randwick, over 1,400. My question is, there's a couple of quiet trials. Very interesting that Craig Williams went up to ride him in those trials too, which I find. I always look for the little things. Sometimes jockeys are the semi-traders, particularly on board in barrier trials. And he rode it in those 2 trials, a bit quiet. Just wonder if the All-Star Mile's the target this time, and if that's the case, well, on a first up, maybe that's a bit misleading, that first up run last prep. This time last year, in this race, he was he ran a plainish sort of 3-length 8th to of course, the superstars, Mr. Brightside, Tom Kitten, and I Wish I Win.
Well, this is very interesting, this horse, because I thought there was two. Again, it's because of my challenges with Treasure of the Moment on a personal level, not so much when you just look at the raw intel, and that's really how you need to look at things ultimately. But Pericles, if I'm reading the intel correctly, this horse is set for his best ever preparation now. That first trial, 27th of Jan, pretty soft. You look at the 900 metres, it's like the horse is miles away from being ready. Comes out on the 12th of the 2nd and generates an overall performance barrier trial wise that sits somewhere between 1.1 lengths below benchmark and 1.7 below. And then you look at the breakdown of that, 6.5 for the first below benchmark, first couple of 100 metres. Then, unmistakable the move in the middle, +4, and 1.7 overall last 400. You look at the last 200 metres, absolutely felt that trial. That means this horse is going to turn up tomorrow. I would say impossible to run under +2. Impossible. This horse is going to run at least +2 to +3 range on that trial, because the previous campaign he didn't trial anywhere near as good and turned up first up with a +1.4.
Yeah,
Bit shorter.
Showing glimpses of talent.
Yeah, so I'm very nervous about this horse. This is one of two horses. Why am I even saying this? Looking to beat Treasure of the Moment, but I feel this is one of maybe even three, but two horses that are going to be major threats, and this is one of them. And like you said, Willow's gone, and he doesn't do that very often. Ralphy goes to Sydney and jumps on the back of it, and so he must have been informed as well. Look, it's worth your while, and I don't believe he's going to be disappointed.
Well, and also when riders ride a bit in a positive way to barrier trial, that's often, I just want to see what you've really got. Am I worth committing to you this prep? So What you're saying is that the data's saying absolutely you're worth committing to this prep.
Yeah, and the other thing is with Willow, because he was on the first time and the second time, it was a little bit of his trademark about how he likes to ride him. He gave it a bit of a push. Just to see, and that's why the horse, sort of tanked out late, which I don't see as a negative here, right? I see that as a plus sign. Now, mind you, I'm saying all these things, but this horse has to do all those things if it truly wants to test Treasure of the Moment, because Treasure of the Moment does come in with a rock solid sort of +3 range for this distance. So it's not like you can just turn up and run. Like if you run just like you did first up last campaign, you're not going to get near it.
And here's a quirk. Feroci, which is currently, let's have a look here. It's currently $12. It's got not the best 1400 performance in the race. It's got the two best 1400 metre performances in the race. Last start, second to Tom Kitten ahead, and that Rupert Clark Stakes was a very, very serious performance, and it was second up. So if it brings what it did there, it won't be missing the top three, you would think.
Yeah. So this was a bit of a conundrum for me with this horse, because you're right, Ralphie. What it put up first up was a pretty big signal that this horse is in for could already be airborne, right? And you look at the run through all the splits, like everything, like he's already there, +2.3, right? Doesn't have to find much more to assure him a first or second Guernsey. Now, the challenge for me, just going through the protocols and the process, and it's always stems back to one thing: the art of money, the art of wagering. The signals, generally speaking, for the majority of horses. Now, this one could sit outside of it. And I thought about that last campaign or the one before that. It was a different age, right? The horse. Second up syndrome is very real when you run that big. And that's my negative, because this horse screams, back me, I'm going to a new level. And if it was probably a 3-year-old, I would have most likely marked it on top. But because it's second up, it's 14 days, the profile of the stable, even though it has performed well second up before, but we're at 4 and we went within a length of the PB first up. There is a sideway regression run, highly probable if I look at intel based on good horses that have got ability like this one generally do, unless you're 3. Or every now and then they can defy that. I don't know if this one's going to defy that.
And the good second up performances were off soft first up runs. So on this occasion, it wasn't. Look, and again, it's the either or argument, isn't it? Because it wasn't a soft first up run, but he didn't do any work in the first section. It was a good even tempo. So I'm saying it might not be a flat second up run. It might be a progression, but also you can't dismiss the possibility of that happening.
No, and let's say the horse turns up and just runs right up to that run. Like if it turns up and run like 2, a little bit better than 2, probably not going to win you the race, but by geez, could you get super bullish after that, because who knows what the new PBs. And then if it goes past that, then we've got the emergence of a horse that could make it difficult for anybody in Australia to beat.
I don't want to not finish with Evaporate, because it was so good in this race last year, and I was planted wide throughout. And as I said, serious horses ran the trifecta. Mr. Brightside, Tom Kitten, I Wish I Win. It then went to New Zealand, which ultimately was his target race, and it just got beaten. Came back to Randwick. It was very good last prep. Its trial leading in Werribee seemingly was good, and I just mentioned about Craig Williams. Jamie Mellon rode in that trial, and then is sticking with him after riding him to an end of prep third and a good third to the superstar Jimmy Starr. So how does he line up here?
Yeah, well, he was one of the other horses that was like absolutely almost impossible to fault for this race. Everything points to this horse turning up and running very big. And very big is, and I'm looking at that threshold, like +2 is probably that minimum line in, because I feel if you don't run to that sort of level, you're not going to get into that top 3, and that's what I'm focused on. And this horse meets the criteria. Top 3 on the bottom, +2 on the bottom, and potentially a 2.5 to 3 range at the top. And I actually feel this is like very, very ideal in terms of how they're setting it up for this race. He's just got to turn up and run. And last campaign, he would have just been a money maker for you if you backed him every start, Ralphy. He never missed the money. He was in the top 3 every run. Well, there was that one run at Caulfield in August where he didn't, right? So, yeah, I do feel this is a horse that has to be highly respected. And then I want to make sure we don't forget a horse that you like a little bit, Ralphie. This Like a Lucy. It's like out the back there
on the
price.
grid. That's the question. Where's it going to be in the run? But on talent-wise, she's a very good horse.
Yeah, she really is, Ralphie. And the reason why I want to just mention it as well, not only is it a horse that you've spoken about in the past, yes, it's a possibility, wait and see for the horse when it gets up a lot closer to 2,000. But this horse can race boldly first up. He's quite capable of breaking through the +2 barrier when fresh, and could do it at this distance range, and looks like it's set very, very nicely for a big first up run. Now, maybe if there's absolutely no pace, that will work against it. And what I mean by no pace, like -6, -10 first section, that's probably a real major negative for the horse. But if they didn't, and they can run around that, -1, -3 range, that might just be enough. Because see, you got Caulfield, nice long straight, Ralphie. These sort of horses can thrive on that. So I just thought anybody playing multis or anything like that, it's one that you should plug in because it could fill a placing. I'm not expecting it to win. I think a lot of things have to go wrong for others for it to win, but it's not one that you'll just put a pen through and say no hope.
Yeah, I think it's one of those quaddies where I'll take one quaddie one out and one quaddie 4 or 5.
So you're talking one quaddie one out, you're saying treasure the moment?
Of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just asking the question, that's all.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I suppose let's touch on it. I know we've got a couple of WA customers. With Watch Me Rock, Pikey isn't coming over here for no reason. They're frustrating, these WA horses. We know their talent level, and this has got the extra layer that it's at an enforced stable change away from the Williams, but that often that short break just doesn't work for them when they short break with travel coming over here. But is his talent level there?
He definitely has a talent. Absolutely. Again, he meets that floor. If you're looking for a horse who can potentially rise above the +2 range, he can do it. Is he going to do it first up? Well, it's a very, very short break. So it's just outside that range where you can run negative and bounce positive. It is, in my view, pretty much on that borderline considered a spell, the 77 days. So he might have had a week off. But his typical profile first up is around benchmark. I'm not sure if he's going to go much better than that. And let's say he brought his best, and that's probably the most important thing. If he brought his absolute best, he probably still doesn't win, but he might run third or fourth.
All right, let's get to the Blue Diamond and the head scratcher. This is every year it's a head scratcher. This to me is one of the most interesting but open Blue Diamonds I can recall. Maybe we say that every year, but in this case, at this stage, there hasn't been a superstar emerge. But I want to ask you, the starting point is the start. That first 400, is it going to be a typical Blue Diamond, big field, and they go like cut cats?
Well, the reality is, Ralphy, that's what should happen, because no matter what happens, that's usually what the situation is. Like, there's going to be some tension right from the start. They're a group of young horses, even lot. So there'll be a level of pressure because of the big field. And I'd be really surprised if they dawdled Ralphie.
Yeah.
I just feel they're going to jump, and we to put the line in the sand that the absolute low point is benchmark, and realistically +2 has to be like on the table. Could it go +4 or 5? Let's say these horses aren't really capable of doing that, but in the moment, and they're all by and large going to be absolutely ready as they can be for this race, and the riders who are all, probably a lot of them will be going there, I'm a chance, even if you've got $20 or $30 next to your name as your odds, are going to be feeling like what you just said. It's an even group, we can do it, right?
Yeah.
And so they might put horses in uncomfortable positions and run faster than what they need to, and they're not going to know until they get to the 400 that we're gone too fast and we've done the wrong thing, whatever it is. So, yeah, I'm sitting here, benchmark +2 minimum, and there could be a bit of an overreaction because there's enough green for me to sort of say that they could overreact. Now, we should always look at the flip side. What happens if there's no pace? And everybody's going, for whatever reason, because everybody's frightened, because they might feel their horses are good enough, but they don't want to overdo it at the wrong time, and they want to wait. Everybody wants to wait for the big 400, 600 metre burst, and we go 4, 5, 6 lengths below benchmark. I don't know. Do you reckon that really can happen? It's possible.
With 2-year-olds? They just run, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah.
All right, most advantage, we can bracket them because they what you're saying is I suppose this is your first printout of from your early edition. What the computer is saying here is that the Guest House, Closer to Free, Eternal Warrior, they all come through what you're saying is the strongest form reference, which is the Colts division of the Blue Diamond Prelude 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and for me, and that makes sense as well. Like, given the evenness of the field, and then looking at the probability of what may happen, stepping up an extra 100 metres, and looking at that implied possibility that there's going to be a bit of tension in the race, where you're going to sit, off that speed. Are you going to be midfield further back, or are you going to be in that midfield, just the off-pace, on-pace range? Where are you going to be? And, of course, I feel always, in most cases, with these 2-year-olds, there has been some exceptions, but in most cases, if you can be 2, 3, 4 lengths off that lead, that's like a really hot spot to be in, to be a big chance of winning if you've got the talent. And you look at Guest House as an example. That last start run, 1.9 lengths below benchmark, beautiful, like excellent. 2.2 lengths above benchmark between 8 and the 4. I look at the very last 200 metres, it's 0.3 above. Like, he actually rebounded slightly. Very good sign that this horse is going to get that 1,200 metres and do it well. And then you look at the other one, closer to free. I look at its setup, who's a real possibility of being engaged right up there. That first race start, 0.7 below benchmark, not overreact in the middle with a 1.7 above, still had that drop, Ralphie. Now, you've got to bring this into play. Like, what's the between the 4 and the 2, the horse lost 1.3 lengths and still rebounded with a 0.9 above. That's got to mean something, Ralphie. I have this feeling that if I'm looking at the numbers, this horse would have run a half above benchmark if it didn't have that slowdown. Or benchmark, worst case scenario. So this does have those signals that it could leap to a +2.
He'll be winning if he goes to +2.
Yeah.
He will be winning.
Yeah, and he shows that strength, that he's got it, sustained speed. You look at it, Ralphie, 8 to the 6, 0.7 above, 6 to the 4, +1. Then he gets the dip, 0.3 below, and then rebounds with a 0.9 above. And he's going, if he jumps cleanly and doesn't get, hustled and bustled out of it, he's just going to be like right on it. And from 9, he's going to just be able to come across and be there.
Well, every chance he goes to 7.
Yep. So I like everything about this horse as being a real, genuine chance of winning.
So a couple of layers to put on top of the data that you've said. Definitely, if you're on the fence on Guest House, watch the Steward's Vision from 2 weeks ago, and he just got it completely wrong at the start. He's virtually crossed his legs and was lucky not to fall. So that couldn't have helped the horse. And what you're saying is that's on the numbers, pure numbers, it's forgivable. The other thing with Closer to Free, now I made this point on the Monday show that, it was wound up to barrier trial to be sold. Danny O'Brien bought it at the barrier trial. Yeah, what's actually happened? I've had a deep dive listen to this, and both from Adrian Corboy, who's the breaker, and it was under his name, and before Danny bought it. Apparently, the horse was cast in its box 2 months ago, and it was behind in its work. Now, What I'm saying is that there's every chance it goes forward as it really improves off its debut run. It wasn't completely screwed down. There was more to come. All the communication from Danny is, and he's no bullshitter when it comes to public chats, is that it is going to improve. And what you're saying, the numbers are saying he's going to improve. Maybe he's the obvious.
Yeah, well, see, the other thing you have to factor in as well, that was like, if you look at that trial, right, that +5.7 last 400, like it was masked in that in that race because of what happened between the 4 and the 2. I don't feel that horse could really let rip with the last 400 like it's capable of. And Ralphie, if you sit in the position that's like 1 to 3 lengths off him, 2-3 lengths off him, and you can unleash a +5 last 400, like you win it. You will win it.
Mm. All right, well, I'm getting bullish there. Now, Eternal Warrior is your third one, who ran third to these two in the prelude. And there's so many different angles to this caper. And there was an article today in News Limited with Dwayne Dunn, who won 4 Blue Diamonds in a row. And he said he looks for those horses that have got closing strength. That was what he would look for, that, weren't as flashy, weren't as speedy up front, but they could relax and almost be a 1400 type. Maybe this is the horse, and with Damian Lane, you know where he's going to be, stalking and out in those fast lanes.
Yeah, well, he definitely has that, and comes in like razor sharp, and just pointing out what you just said about the actual profile of the horse. 3.5 lengths below benchmark early, 0.9 above between the 8 and the 4, +3.1. Now, this is the difference. You then look at these micro splits. The micro splits, there's a real art that when you can consistently look at this pattern, you start to see a number of things. One thing that stood out was this. He came off a much softer tempo. Overall, last 400 is a big signal about how much stronger you potentially are going to be at 1,200 metres. But then when you look at the breakdown, 0.2 below between the 8 and the 6, tying in with that first section, +1 between the 6 and the 4, gets all the way to +2.1 between the 4 and the 2. So hits the peak. So no slowdowns, no nothing. Energy distribution perfection, right? +1 last 200. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at that signal. Did he need to run? Is it possible the 2-year-old could just evolve off that and, through conditioning? Or was it something else? The reality is he still broke benchmark last 200 metres, but there was a de-acceleration after having perfect energy distribution. Now, if it's a de-acceleration and you want to deem it as being like normally, you would say, okay, you're guaranteed at least a length and a half improvement. Well, that's pretty exciting, and I'm sitting pretty much with that view that that's my expectations, even though 2-year-olds, they're already very fit, Ralphy. It's just what they learn. So take it any way you want. The reality is, if it was a +2.1 or +2.5 last 200 metres, then I'd have this horse on top. Yeah. But it's not.
So Big Sky is next. He brings a different form. He's looked fantastic in both his wins, and they've been faultless, but they've also been at 1,000 metres. And this will be a different setup, guaranteed, because of the bigger field. It's funny. We don't do much historical stats when it comes to big races. You don't do any. And I think as a rule, they're pretty overrated. Like, I don't know, apparently the Lightning Stakes 3-year-olds had a bad record. How many 3-year-olds are as good as Tentoris, for instance? But when it comes to this race, the one thing, I just had this gut feel that 1,000 metre race 3 weeks before the Blue Diamond has proved a poor form reference. And the logic being it's so difficult for horses off 1,000 metres to jump to 1,200. Well, I looked it up. It's an abysmal form reference. But there's one standout exception. One in the last 12 years has gone on and done something in the Blue Diamond. It was Extreme Choice, and it was trained by Price Kent. Maybe this is the best talent in the race, and maybe he can do it. But it does say, as a general rule, 1,000 and 1,200 is just a different stratosphere for 2-year-olds.
Yeah. So initially, I had it out of the pack. But then when I examined it more closely, and this is putting aside the 2 1s next to its name, which really has a lot of weight, especially if you just think about all the times you've said over the years that you don't know a horse's real talent. All they do is they just keep winning, right?
Yes.
You can't knock that, right? It's impossible. But here's the one thing that cannot be overlooked. First run, 2.5 lengths below benchmark, savage slowdown in the middle. Goes from 2.5 below to -5.3. Energy distribution, massive negative to the tune of virtually 3 lengths. Rebounds with a +1.5. Rebounds. That in 1,000 metres is savage when you have that slowdown. Then it goes to Caulfield, sticks to the 1,000 metres, runs almost 2 lengths quicker first section, like 0.9 below. What happens? Another serious slowdown between the 8 and the 4. Goes from 0.9 below to -3.5. Virtually 2 lengths, 2.5, 1.5, 1 3/4. And then finishes off again, last 400 metres, 0.8 above. And overall scorecard goes from a 5.8 below benchmark to a -1.1 with the slowdown. Now, doesn't matter how you look at it, the 1,000 metres, it's worth at least a length, Ralphy. Now, bottom line, can he do it stepping up to 1,200? Well, I ask you this question. What difference will it make if a horse could have the smoothest of energy distribution from start to finish? How much more will they improve in the overall performance? So for that reason, I sat back and said, no, I'm keeping you in the top 4 because you're not tested.
Yes.
And that's why it's there.
Well, the other unbeaten horse is Unit 5. Easy win
Yep.
at the Heath track, and the Heath track still, it hasn't got the years of data that you've got, for instance, for the main Caulfield track. And then he goes to the Magic Millions and makes up significant ground. Yet to run time, but he did it at 1,200, and I think he's the only horse who's ran over 1,200 in the race.
Yeah. So, number one, the stable, right?
Yeah.
Very strong. So you look at that Gold Coast run, 8.3 lengths below benchmark, first split time, plus 2.1 between the 8 and the 4, monster last 400, plus 4.6. You peel back that one run before, and there's just an amazing difference from one run to the other. Didn't do anywhere near that first up 1100. Now, this horse profiles like a 1,400 metre plus horse. Now, it's at the 35 days off. Definitely that bit of a freshen up can help. We're coming all the way back here. And then we are hoping the horse can peak and retain the finish that it did from the Gold Coast. Are all those things possible? That's the question I ask myself. Are all those things possible?
So on a setup, he's got challenges, and then saying, "Well, it's a Kieran Maher horse. I don't want to bin it."
No, I that's why I don't want to sit there and say, "Oh, there's no chance."
Yeah.
But I feel that when they're 2-year-olds, he probably can't use his, normal way of techniques with more mature horses. This is a lot to ask for a young horse to do that. It's a little bit like that later Moscato, like it's another interesting horse. Like, what do you do with a horse like that, right? Who also
showed talent at the Gold Coast in that 1,000 race.
Well, if you're looking at it on talent there, I mean, the last 400 metres was plus 6.1. And then, okay, it goes to Randwick, and realistically, it sort of almost fell apart in comparison. But could that be, and I did think about this, Ralphy, could that be because it was flattened by the Gold Coast run, and 2-year-olds cannot do back-to-back when you have that level of exposure? I mean, a plus 6.1 last 400, that's massive. Like, the horse was top 10, inside the top 10 for the whole day. So, and yes, it is 1,000 metres, and the Randwick run sort of forces you to push the horse back and not hard in the top 4. So that's one that if I'm doing, again, I'm not going to be doing this, but if you're doing multis, right, you've got to scribble it in somewhere as a knockout horse.
And we'll finish with the two fillies, Streisand and Garner Zakan. I'm going to make a case for Garner Zakan in a sec, but firstly, Streisand. Big close at Caulfield at the 24th meeting in the preview. Clearly, it was they knew they already had their slot in the Blue Diamond secured with prize money. Then went forward in the prelude and won. It was at a softer time, the fillies versus the Colts. It's usually a good line to match up the prelude speed as to who's the stronger out of the Colts and the fillies. But she's trending the right way, and the stable have had recent success in this race. Where does she fit in, Streisand?
A horse again that is showing like a nice profile. It sits firmly around that 2 lengths below benchmark. Did have a little bit of a slowdown as well last start at 1100. Maybe not as dramatic as Big Sky, but from 0.4 below to minus 1.7, there is a slowdown there. Overall finish was plus 1.2. The run before as well, when you look at that, there was a slowdown there, and you could see this horse had made progression. So I do feel this is a horse that is going to appreciate 1,200 metres, can relax in a race. And if things don't go right for some horses and the horse can blend in, it's there for an opportunity, but it will have to rise like several lengths more.
And Garner Zakan, I just read this as a horse that they're educating it. Got everything wrong at Geelong, and the significance of that Geelong race was the standalone meeting where it could qualify for the Blue Diamond. It was favourite for a reason, off very sharp trials. Got everything wrong, but then they taught to relax. It was virtually the same type of run as Streisand at Caulfield. Then they went to that big high prize money race, and it worked through its gears really well. It's Ma and Ethan Brown who's just on fire. He's going to get the cheapest run of all time. I'm not having it in the quaddies. Is there a case for her?
Well, that makes sense. That you'd want to potentially have it at least in your multis, because that run at Caulfield on the 24th of the 1st, it did display like an outstanding last 400 after also suffering some slowdowns, just demonstrating the sort of capability. There's a big chance the horse came out of that run, went to Randwick, and that was a negative that worked against the horse. And the horse, in my view, even though it ran second, probably wasn't a perfect display of what it's capable of. And now we're back here again. I'm not sure how the youngsters handle all the travelling up and down. No, I'm just going to make the assumption that it's going to be fine. And like I would, if they got up and won, I wouldn't be sitting there saying, "Oh, I had that win." No, it's a chance, and this is why it's an even race.
Yep. All right, we'll talk business tomorrow. The third of the Group 1s is the Oakley Plate, race 9 in the program here. Well, I mentioned that I'll be taking one quaddie with Treasure at the moment, one with a few in it. Is this the same case here? What type of talent level has Point Barrow shown, and what do you expect her to bring tomorrow? Because she's pretty short favourite for an Oakley Plate, but when you look at the IVR forecast at just 0.8, we're not talking about one of the greatest additions of all time to date.
True, very true. Yeah. It's an interesting horse, isn't it, Ralphy? Very, very interesting. It's got that killer instinct. I want to be a winner. Never been out of the money. So, again, for all the people like betting for a place as well, they'd be just cleaning up. Well, they would have cleaned up, right? They just would have kept collecting. So, why wouldn't this horse just turn up and run big again, especially the way that stable's going at the moment? The facts are this, though. And this is always coming back down on the Prism. What price did you say it was, Ralphie?
It's $2.90.
Yeah, okay. It's not like it's $1.90, right?
No, that's true. Yep.
Yeah. It's a 0.9 above benchmark its best at the moment. And that run at Flemington, the last 400 was amazing. Absolutely amazing. +8. Bit of a trademark for this horse. It's got that big weapon in the way it can unleash its 400, which, in my view, helps it to make it a talent. It has even been on display when the horse has gone a lot faster early as well. It can go as quick as 3 lengths below benchmark and still capable of putting down a almost +6 last 400. And typically it's been running around that 7 lengths below benchmark and then throwing this massive bomb over the last 400, like +8, +5.8. So we know the horse has got all that talent. But the scary thing is this. On Intel, it's been priced on futures.
Yes.
It's not priced on current profile, like where it is. Like the expectation is this horse is just going to come out, blow away its previous PB and find 1 or 2 more. And that's what it's been priced on. It's not priced on what it's actually done in terms of its performance. So from start to end of campaign, the horse had generated massive improvement from 3.1 lengths below benchmark all the way up to 0.9 above. And they started off with 1,100 and finished with 1,100. It's pretty hard to do, Ralphie, finish off at 1,100 after you've had a round of a couple of 1,200 metre races. So it does sort of put you in a place where it's impossible to knock. And even myself, I can't knock the horse. It deserves to be hard in the market. And the expectation is the horse is going to turn up and at least run to its PB. So I scored it that way, not really working on that the horse is going to then find another length or two, just coming out, running to its best. Why wouldn't you be able to at least do that? And if you do that, like you said right at the start, well, the hurdle rate's 0.8, puts you there. So by default, it's there. Is it the strongest ever $2.90 winner a priced horse I've ever seen? No.
It's a head scratcher because, like, with 50 kilos, it's going to be, there's an extra point of odds gone because everyone's going to look at that, and then obviously Jamie Millam, the Team Freedman, great trainer jockey combination, is going to punch her in as well, and the big monster finishing flash home run. But they can get beaten too, those horses that are out the back. I spoke about Warren. Well, often an Oakley Plate, if you're too far back, you're out of it.
Well, if you get out more than 8 lengths off the lead, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, the MLF for this horse, though, the extreme back, it's been 6.7 lengths from the leader. That's 1,200 metre race. Its typical positioning's around 4.5. The closest it's ever been is 3.1. So let's say that horse got to that. So this is now the power of knowing what speed do you really feel they're going to go at. See, if let's say they went benchmark, and this horse is going to be 3 to 6 lengths off him, then he's in its golden zone to weaponise his 400 metre brutality that he has. Like she has. That's the reality. But what happens if they're going +2? What happens then? Then you're going to be two lengths outside the elastic band to maintain the weapon over the last 400. And then if you want to stay inside the elastic band, therefore you have to run right up to probably the closest you've ever been. Like in terms of how close to benchmark can you run, you're going to be running about -3. That will not give you the +8, but it'll still give you about a +6, Ralphy, right? Which still puts you in the strike zone. So I looked at all those parameters and said, well, doesn't matter how I move the chessboard, you're just there, even though you're not my preferred horse to back, but you're there and you are worthy of a top 3 slot.
Well, punters often talk about the each-way bet. Sam Freedman's going to have an each-way bet here because he's going to have her at the back, or at least midfield, and Tropicus will be up front. So that'll be his each-way bet. He'll be up front with Gallant Sun. I just want to put a little layer on this with both Tropicus and Gallant Sun. There's a $500 million prize money, but they're both stallions. They're running for a lot more money. So they are both with very, very good stables and both targeted at this race, and both will be up front. So how do they score?
Yeah, well, Tropicus was the real interesting one for me. That was the one that I felt is showing a lot of possibilities. Number one, the capability of going sensational first up. And, of course, this stable has that capacity. I don't believe there's much between them at all. Very little between them. In fact, I've probably got a slight leaning to Tropicus in terms of potential talent. Number one, the horse has come out at Caulfield and run 0.8 above. And the race matrix, when you look at that field, Arkansas Kid, See You in Heaven, is sort of indicating the strength of that is more like a +2 to 2.5 range. So that means the scope is there. It was 4th best of the day, which is also another lock-in to bring that floor in to say, okay, you're there. It did a lot of work through the first 2 sections. Yes, got softened up late and didn't have like the Titanic finish that a lot of other horses have because you're using all your energy early, but won the race. And then I looked at that other run at Caulfield where it ran second to Giga Kick. That was 0.4 above. Again, hard work through the first section. Didn't quite deliver the same in the middle, but it was a little bit firmer overall last 400. So this horse, if it's strengthened a bit more, love the fact that this is first up. If it parades well, then I look at the draw, got the right person on board, super dangerous, and can beat the favourite. I really do feel this horse can beat it. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
It's a weird one too because even the words coming out of my mouth is going to sound silly, but the difference between a 16 horse field and a 14 horse field, it can just take that little bit of tension out of the race on a race like the Oakley Plate.
Yep.
So where does Gallant Sun fit in? It's not in your early edition. I'm just reading him that this is peak run time, and really he hasn't been forward. He missed a lot of racing, and Moods can get him forward, and now it's Moody Coleman, of course, but 259 days off. First up was into that brutal headwind. I think he's just progressing, and he gets his chance to perform a peak run here. What sort of capability do you think he has got?
Hard horse to fault. Doesn't quite possess the same brilliance like over the last 400 metres as the favourite, but has a handy 400 metre sprint. Like a +4 range is pretty solid, particularly if you're running like 1.5, 2 lengths below benchmark and you can push out that sort of a finish. You know you have a level of capability, and it feels like this is the horse's wheelhouse around this distance range. Like it just 1100 looks like prime. And then I looked at that very last run, just the way the horse tapered over the last 200 metres was also a clear signal that even though I put in a winning performance and it was 0.5 above, it's difficult to sit there and say it can't improve again. So it's there. It is there, Ralphy. I just felt that there was a few others that are already at that level and probably testing themselves to new levels.
All right, well, we could spend a long time on choices on this race.
Yeah.
There's very few that we couldn't include here. Should I finish up and just asking about She's Bulletproof? Because the reality is she's got the best 1100 profile in this race by running second in this race last year to the superstar Jimmy Starr. Is she a chance of coming to play first up?
Well, it depends on how you look at the stable.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. I'm still trying to work out like what really happened to the horse last prep.
Yeah, they just didn't get it going, did they?
They
good trials really heading in.
Yeah, hit and misses.
Yeah.
But you are right. If we go the prep before when they had the horse just humming,
yes,
then you'd be sitting there and say, wow, you got a +2 in the locker. You should be top 3 and looking at taking victory. So it's there, but these big races, Ralphie, how important is the stable you come from?
It's a good builder.
Yeah, it's like the riders. No matter what, who is riding your horse in the big race? So I just said, all right, trainers, let's just say good trainer. Rider, is it a top 3 right? No. Right, it's just not. It's a Group 1 race, right? All the talent's out there. You're up against the best trainers, best riders. You sit behind, even though potentially you could have the best horse, but you don't have that much of an advantage. Now, can she do it? Can this trainer do it? And can this rider do it? Well, I'll be talking stories if it does.
All right, well, we'll talk business tomorrow on the other races. So what I'll do, I'll just get a snapshot off you of all these other 7 races, finishing with the quaddie. Stealth and Knight's pretty tight favourite. Porter's a flying machine up front when he gets it his own way. He had to lead from the outside barrier. What's your thoughts in race 10?
Oh, well, you just nailed it right off the bat. They're the 2 horses to be looking at. I mean, Porter is going fantastic. Just a little, these are just the little things that you got to look at. Got the 1.32 starts back. Repeats that. Going to be super hard to beat. Now, the last run 4th, is that the signal that I'm done? Is it either or, right? Either or. Stealth or Night. I look at the horse's profile. Best ever performance is a +1. I look at what it's been doing this time. Hasn't been able to get there. It's come close. That one at Lakeside, 0.3 below benchmark, hasn't got there, right? Is it going to get there tomorrow? Last chance. Now, the technicals sort of indicate the freshen, you've come to your top. Probability of that happening, 40%. But I just sit here and say, it's an even race. It's an even field. It's quite possible the horse may, because it's from this stable, it could just peak tomorrow And if it gets the +1, well, you're going to run first or second.
Race 6 in the program here. I just want to touch on this, that we do our work separately. Then we swap notes. I can't work out how Bossy Bonita's so tight in the market, and I really love the run of Damascus first up. I like the run of Miss Hari, who's much better at $1,400, and she's $11. And Paradise City, well, God bless it, last week in the quaddie. So to me, it looks a race in 3, and that's exactly what your most advantage have put out.
Yeah, so is Bossy, is that the favourite, is it?
Well, it's $4.40 compared to Damascus,
okay.
$3, Paradise City $6.50, and Miss Aria $11.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I reckon you nailed it in terms of the horse we should look at. I'm not going to say I would give up racing if it won Bossy Bonita, because I could give up, and I'm not giving up, right? So I'm not saying crap like that, but it won't be having an ounce of my money, and if it beats me, I would just go in the corner and sook. As long as my other ones run second or third, I'll accept it. And I do think Damascus Road's got to be the starting point. Wow, Ralphy. If it repeats what it did at Caulfield second up last campaign, we are going to get the money. Plus 1.7. Paradise City. I'm trying to work this out. That was unbelievable run. A repeat of that run, the horse will run first or second. Right?
It's Ari's 1400 profile?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? Unbelievable when you look at that. Right? So there's plenty. It's just which lever are you going to push? Like for me, I only like to back one horse, right?
Yes.
I want to bet in this race. So which is the lever? Which way are you going? It ain't going to be Bossy.
There we go. We'll talk business tomorrow. Race 5 on the program. Well, if you take an early edition quaddie, which I will be, and I'll take those 3 in the last leg. Well, in the third leg, it's almost certainly She's an Alibi. Is there any reason to be nervous about She's an Alibi at the short price?
Well, I've got Salty Pill's got to be a danger.
Right.
Has to be. Absolutely has to be the danger. Well, first of all, okay, She's an Alibi is a winner. Never been out of the money. Just a money maker, right? Have a look at it. Just a money maker. You'd be collecting every time. Salty Pearl has broken benchmark. Is very capable. I just love the fact of what they did first up 1,200 metres. Very solid overall. Had a dip in between the 4 and the 2. Costed a length. Still broke benchmark late. Big improvement. I feel this horse is set to run at least benchmark plus a half. She's Alibi hasn't quite got there yet, so it's going to have to turn up and run to a new PB, and which I feel it can, by the way, right? I don't get overexcited just because the horse has got a 9.7 last 400 because it came off a barrier trial speed or a hurdle race speed of 16.3 below. So I'm not looking at that as being the real indicator. But is it worthy of being hard in the market, top 2? Or in this case, it's in the red. Well, I don't know if it's worthy of being in the red, but it's definitely worthy of being favourite.
Race 4 on the program, the Autumn Classic here, the longer races for the 3-year-old. I can't make head or tail of this race. Can you make a case for anything?
Which race is this? Race 4?
Race 4. Sorry, race 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Ralphy, we can bet in every race. The profile and the starting point for me is, the field starts off around 2.5, 3 lengths below benchmark. And what beats you in these races isn't so much how far below benchmark, because they're all the same, is how will horses cope if the races run fast?
Yes.
How?
And we'll just leave it.
That's what you'd be risking your money on, is that.
Race 3, there's 5 in the market, and it's 3 of them rock hard fit. 2 of them that if you took on face value, they will be running 1-2, but sometimes a monster first up run, particularly when they're big odds, can say, yeah, maybe one more run, but Immediacy and Whiskey on the Hill were huge last start a fortnight back. So what do you make of this race in a nutshell?
Yeah, probably crying a little bit because if you look at Immediacy's first up run as an example, plus 1.7, 4th best of the day, and we're 14 days later off a long break. There is a high probability of flatline run unless they go super slow. So that makes me nervous. But my initial reaction was far out. If that had been second up or something, I'd be wanting to back you for sure. Whiskey on the Hill, also slightly different though, right, Ralphie? One's 252-day break. first up big. This one was 91 days. It does make a difference, right?
Yes.
On how you're going to deliver. But that was unmistakably huge, right? Plus 1.1. That mid-run 6.2 above before tapering, that just also gave the big signal like, well, what are you going to do this campaign? So both these horses are going to go huge, right, this campaign. But you got to take the risk. See, now we're talking money, right? Like if you said to me, no, Accardi, don't worry. I already know for a fact that they're looking to set the record about how slow they can go early, then if you backed either one of those two, you won't miss the money. But if they're going to run differently, then they're going to be suspect. But not because of their abilities, because it's second up syndrome.
We'll
so
finish
Taken's got to be one to respect.
Yeah. Okay. We'll finish with the sedative in race 2. I'll just ask you this. You don't mind taking the place 1, 2 in a field of 7? Does Peloton appeal at this stage? And we'll talk more business tomorrow.
Just the sheer fact that I haven't said anything to you yet, Ralph, is not a good signal. I'm like a little bit on the fence with the Peloton, right? I'm just a little bit on the fence. Now, this is probably the day where it can come out and just, out come all the party, things that they use to pop to say happy birthday because you're going to break benchmark. But, yeah, I thought the run first up was okay, and I'm expecting to see a big improvement, and maybe it's just going to come. But small field, no pace, probably doesn't work against the horse. It's not the place where I probably will be betting Ralphy.
And that completes our big deep dive into the 3 Group 1s. As I said, we'll talk business tomorrow. It'll be the accompaniment of Vince's Race Speed Profiles final edition when we just go in very, very simple terms after we've got the clarity of scratchings as well. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed today's deep dive, and thanks so much for being a customer of Year Round Carnival.